out a sick setup? I worked really hard on this, and you guys need to say W MaxGnarly because this looks kind of good, right? Max is nutritious for moronic tier list. Yeah, it does say nutritious. What the notorious? Yeah, I was gonna say nutritious. Yeah, my tier lists are a W, and I don't care what any of you guys say. All right, let's get into the Cartoon Network 2000s show tier list. We are going to fucking rip. Boys, as you know, a couple days ago, we sparked a conversation in chat where we started talking about the best shows on Cartoon Network. And brother, we had quite a bit of disagreement. And today, everything is going to get cleared up. How is it going to get cleared up, you ask? Me. I am always right. I am going to show you guys the way. I'm going to tell you guys all the best shows that existed when we were coming through our youth on Cartoon Network. Pink Panther? Yeah, maybe in the black and white back in the day. Baz, get your old ass out of here, brother. So, starting off with the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy. Brother, all right? We're coming in hot, right off rip. I was not a fan of Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. I think that it has value to it, but a lot of the comedy and a lot of the the graphics just weirded me out. Was not a prime TV show that existed on Cartoon Network during this period of time, okay? It was subpar. It was very just, I don't know, the grim vibes. I know what's going on, right? I know it had its it had its highs, it had its lows, but overall, I didn't think that the overall premise, I didn't think it was coming in with much potential. Billy and Mandy, the very plot, the very premise of the show, not interesting to me. You know what I'm saying? So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go and give Bill and Mandy the charity of a C tier placement. Brother, I don't think it really deserves any more than that. I really don't. The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, like I said, I don't think it belongs in that D tier list. I really, really don't. But I do think it had some redeeming qualities, and that's where we're going to land. Moving on. Codename Kids Next Door. Legendary. This was one of the best shows I ever got to bear witness to as a kid. These kids literally fighting all the Karens in town, the crazy cat lady, the fucking all the crazy stereotypical figures that exist in the neighborhoods, right? And brother, I loved this show so much that when my brother was born, my parents asked me, they said, "Maxwell, what would you like the name of your newborn brother to be?" I said, "Mom and Dad, if it's not Nigel Uno, then I might disown myself from this family and never return." Needless to say, Logan was born and I cried the entire way to the fucking hospital. The entire way on my fucking mom. All right. I literally wanted my brother's name to be Nigel Uno, and that is on God. I swear to God. I wish I almost had a hold on.
Hey, Max.
Hey, Mom, I need to ask you one question.
Gosh, okay.
What did I want to name Logan when he was being born?
Nigel.
Nigel from the TV show, correct?
Yeah, it was a TV show.
Codename Kids Next Door?
Yeah, something yep, that's it.
And I cried the whole way to the hospital, did I not?
Yes, until you met him, you were very upset.
Thank you for confirming that. Bye, Ma, I love you. Point made. I just need to get that across because I'm not kidding. I quite literally wanted my brother to be named Nigel Uno. All you motherfuckers in the chat talking about my mom this way, I will literally drop kick you. All right, back into the 2000s. It's on site for all you. I see your names. I won't name them, but I see you. All right, and I will remember. Codename Kids Next Door, S tier. Talk to me. On to the next one, bro. We've got Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Now, this show you might already be thinking, if he doesn't like Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, this one might mess with him as well. Brother, I think Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends was a really good show. I think it was a really, really good show. To me, I didn't remember watching it necessarily a shit ton, but I always did like watching it when it was on TV. And I'm not gonna lie. I thought that this was kind of like a really, really quality show, but I don't know if it's enough for me to put it in that A tier. When I think Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, I think B+, very, very high B tier. Blue, I forget, I can't remember the names of the characters, you know what I mean? It wasn't the most memorable, but I remember enjoying it a ton as a kid. You know what I mean? When it was on, I would watch it and I would find myself enjoying it. So for that reason, we're going to drop that in at B tier. Moving on, we got Dexter's Laboratory. What was the fucking sister's name? Dee Dee? Not a fan of Dee Dee. Dee Dee annoyed the shit out of me. I could not stand Dee Dee, okay? I could not stand Eddy. Dexter was a little shit. He annoyed the fuck out of me. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't really find this to be that great of a show. If you want my honest opinion, I don't know whether or not this goes D+ or C-. I am gonna go and say that Dexter's Laboratory is probably I'm gonna go D. I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. Eddy was a little shit. All right, fiery fingers. Word to that. I don't know, man. Dexter's Laboratory just didn't do it for me, man. It didn't do it for me. I truly find that Dexter's Laboratory was even like less eventful than Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, which is why I'm going and choosing it to go in that tier right below. I at least think that Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy had like some interesting things going on. I could not remember a single instance of anything interesting happening in Dexter's Laboratory. That's my personal opinion. Rage bait boring. Cretin, have you not seen your stream? Have you not seen your stream? All right. Terrible list or something? Yeah, Natrix, take a hike, pal. Moving on, because I will not stand for any of this bullshit going on in chat at the moment. We're gonna go into Ed, and Eddy. Ed, and Eddy was, I'm pretty sure, a pretty large favorite among the people. Ed, and Eddy, to me, wasn't that great. Like, I wasn't a big fan of it. I was not a big fan. It was a lot of like, how do you say, like slap humor, things like that. Like you got the dumb smart one, you got the dumb ambitious one, and then you got the dumb one. I could see how people like this, but it was never for me. There were redeeming qualities of it in the same way that Billy and Mandy had redeeming qualities. We're going with Ed, and Eddy being a C tier. I'm not moving it. I refuse to touch it. I actually think that this maybe got a little bit better of a placement than it really deserved. If there was another tier between C and D, I think that's probably where Ed, and Eddy would be going. What? I'm leaving the stream? Good. All right. Your opinion's probably needed elsewhere. Show your tits. Hey, bro. All right. We're going to go on. We got Samurai Jack, dude. Samurai fucking Jack, dude. You want to talk about a solid TV show that I was always excited to watch. Always excited to watch whenever it came on TV. Art style was something I was not familiar to at all when I was a kid. Even though it wasn't like the most like stimulating art style, it was just clean and cool, and it always had like a presence that like really interested me as a kid. However, though, it wasn't the most memorable to me. I think that this is a B tier show in the same way that Foster's was a B tier show, where it was always fun to watch and it was always good when it was on TV. I just don't really remember much about it, dude. And that's really what it comes down to. We got the Powerpuff Girls. I feel like even the dudes as a fucking kid could get away with watching Powerpuff Girls, man. Powerpuff Girls was a good show, but it wasn't like my favorite thing to watch on TV. I remember parts of it, but it wasn't like it was necessarily like I was always jumping at it to go and watch.
Move this man!
You watch your goddamn mouth, all right, pal? I truly, I do think that this is a good show, and for the same reason as Foster's Home and Samurai Jack, I think it's going into that B tier, man. Like B tier, if you haven't been able to kind of figure it out already, kind of exist the shows where I was happy to watch, but I wasn't really like, you know, the most invested in as a kid. You know what I mean? So I think that's fair placement. C tier kind of exists those shows where if it was on, it's like fuck it, throw it on in the background, but it's not really doing anything for me. D is like, this is like getting annoying. F is just like, no, take it off the air entirely. Speaking of take it off the air entirely, we've got Chowder. Chowder is our first F tier. Nobody is convincing me otherwise. This shit, I don't care. The schnitzel, the guy with the big nose, and then Chowder, this shit was just annoying, brother. Didn't like this show. Chowder to me was like the very first instance of me feeling like Cartoon Network was going downhill. It was the first time where I really felt like, let's go check out what's on Nickelodeon or Disney Channel or something like that. Chowder doesn't even deserve any more of an explanation. Shit show. Johnny Bravo is a show that's actually quite interesting. I didn't get to see too much Johnny Bravo when I was a kid. It wasn't on very often. By the time that I was really starting to watch cartoons on Cartoon Network, it was a little bit part of that like older era Cartoon Network shows where It was early 2000s, but it just didn't last very long into when I was watching my TV shows. You know what I'm saying? It was cool. It was like, you know, it was fine. It's actually a shame. I'd probably say that this is a low B tier because once again, like I would watch it, but it just wasn't around. It just wasn't around much back in the day. So I feel like I didn't really get to build that much of a connection to that show, even though I would watch it and I do think it was cool. When I was born, I only had 2 channels, so I'm lost here. I was born in 1964, didn't even have a freaking mobile phone. You kids are so spoiled. Brother, it's not my fault that I was conceived at the millennium, okay? Next show, and I'm sure I'm gonna get some fucking hate for this one. The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack. Where do we stand with Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack? Anybody got any strong opinions about this one? I think that this show was shit. If this show was on Cartoon Network, I'm flipping the channels, bro. I'm going to watch HGTV before I'm going to stand here and watch Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack. Fiery Fingers put it down there with Chowder. I like where your head's at, pal. The characters were just boring and annoying. Not my thing. Every episode was just like the same thing over and over again. Or at least like the setting wise, I don't know. It just wasn't cool to me. Moving on, because once again, Flapjack doesn't deserve any more commentary than what we've already given it. We're going to move on to Camp Lazlo. God damn, boys. I'm just going to drop it in, man. Camp Lazlo, D tier show. D tier show. For the same reason that Dexter's Laboratory was just annoying, Camp Lazlo was annoying, bro. I didn't find anything redeeming in it, man. It was another show that, like, maybe I would just kind of leave on to give it a chance because, like, you know, the art looked cool. It was kind of, like, somewhat graphically appealing at face value, but the episodes were boring to me, and I never really stood to want to understand what was going on in any given episode. Next show, this is a hot one. We got the Beneth Teneth, all right? Ben 10, one of the all-time shows on Cartoon Network. The creativity that was in this show was like so far and beyond what was going on in other shows. I want to be like divisive in some way because we're still sitting here with a wide open A tier, but there's no way that I could discount Ben 10. Ben 10 is a S tier show, hands down. I don't think you can really contest that in the slightest. Now, here we are dipping our toes into very divisive territory. Courage the Cowardly Dog. Depending on who you talk to, Courage the Cowardly Dog is either one of the best shows ever or just cringe and kind of off-putting. And for me, back in the day, I found Courage to be very off-putting. I wasn't a fan. I didn't really think it was that great of a show. It was just him, scary, bleak monsters, and then that like old woman that took care of Courage, right? And he was always tweaking, bro. He was always tweaking. Look at this image. Always tweaking, man. And it just like, it fucking set off the anxiety in a little 10-year-old MaxGnarly. Wasn't my thing, man. Was not my thing. So for that very reason, out of respect for the people that come into this very stream, I'm going to put it in D tier. It's another D tier show. Courage was not a cool show. I can respect the fact that a lot of people loved it, but I didn't see anything within that show that I found to be appealing in the slightest. It was not captivating. It was not appealing. No. All right. And before we start to get all these, you know, what the fucks, the dots and etc. Courage is a D tier show. Moving on. Teen motherfucking Titans. Dog. I truly think that my love for superheroes stems from Teen Titans in a very great capacity.
Fuckhead.
All right, dog. Really, Nat? Really? I didn't deserve that. I didn't deserve that. Courage is a D tier show, and we're moving on. I don't owe you an explanation. This is my tier list, and my tier list is always right. Teen Titans, Brother, Beast Boy, Robin, Cyborg, Starfire, Raven. Need I say more? The villains in this show were so good. The overall plot was so good. They took so many kind of like C-list villains within like the DC universe and kind of like made them into like really, really fun characters and fights and episodes all throughout. And they were villains that really don't exist and like thrive in any other capacity besides a show like Teen Titans, with the exception of a few, like Raven's father, Satan. I think Satan was like her father or whatever. And even like the guy with the mask, I can't remember his name, but they were all so badass and good, right? Teen Titans, another S tier show.
Son.
There's no way. Baza! Okay, next show, we've got Johnny Test. We got Johnny Test, obviously the main character, and we got Dookie, all right, his mutt. I can see how people might think that Johnny Test wasn't my kind of show, but I actually really like Johnny Test. I thought it was a good show. I remember it way more than Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends and Samurai Jack, man. I think I'm going A tier with Johnny Test, man. I can't tell you how close Johnny Test and Foster's Home and Samurai Jack all ride this line of A to B, but I really think that Johnny Test was just a solid show. When I would get home from school, Johnny Test would be like the first show, and it would be like two episodes of Johnny Test every day. I'd get home from school, and I'd always come home and I'd fling on Cartoon Network, watch those 2 episodes, and continue to ignore my mom when she'd be telling me to do my homework, man. Such a good show, man. Such a good show. Okay. Next show right here, we got My Gym Partner is a Monkey. This show, I feel like, rode some line of stupidity. And while every kind of Cartoon Network show does to some extent, right? There's a little bit of that goofiness, right? I didn't think this one was as bad. I closely relate this show to Camp Lazlo, and maybe it's because the main characters are both monkeys. I will say I did think that this one was at least a bit better than Camp Lazlo and Dexter. Definitely not by any means the most popular Cartoon Network show, especially when you want to compare it to things like Dexter and Courage, or even Ed, Edd and Eddy and Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. But I do think that in terms of quality, I'm going to put it in that C tier. I don't know, man. I just found it to be, more enjoyable than these other shows. We're going to get into some heavy fucking hitters, all right? And I didn't even mean to do this, but I'm looking at these last 5, and brother, are you guys in for a treat, okay? We are getting into absolute peak content. Starting off strong, Star Wars, The Clone Wars, the show, okay? Not the movie. The movie kicked off this show, but this is the show that literally started so much of the background content that exists within Star Wars universe, and kind of like really set off the interest for fans wanting to see more in the Clone Wars. We got to get so much more insight during such a crucial period of time that exists within that franchise, the Clone Wars. And frankly, it just ended up being one of the most interesting and entertaining periods that has existed within Star Wars, man. We've gotten exposed to so many main characters, very primary characters, and it's also prompted the development of characters that have became fan favorites. If you want to talk about Cad Bane, bro, Cad Bane is an all-time fan favorite Star Wars character. Apologies, you guys are gonna hate me for that one. Same thing with Ahsoka. Ahsoka has cemented herself in as being a face of the franchise for the younger generation. Clone Wars goes S tier. It went on one of the most legendary runs of all time. I think the way that they ended up returning back into the show to finish it off in recent years, I think the way they ended up doing that was perfect. And even the storyline configurations and arrangements that they would do, right? Almost every single, storyline that existed within the show was on 3-episode batches, and it allowed for storylines to get fleshed out so well, and you really got to see things progress. It wasn't just like a one-off episode kind of show, you know what I mean? It was so much more than that. And because of that, the way they built that up, the stories just felt like they meant so much more. They had so much more weight to them. So I'm running with that. Okay, so this is a show that I'm not sure if any of you guys may really hold dear to your heart or remember. Chaotic was a show that I would watch every Saturday morning. For those who don't know, Chaotic was a show where essentially the kids would go home from school and go and play this online card game. And then one day the main character gets sucked into the card game, and you can actually go and buy trading cards on this shit for a little bit of time. And I was obsessed with this show. I think the entire series is actually available all on YouTube, and I can't recommend going in and watching it enough. Probably about 5 or 6 years ago, I jumped back in and just binged the entire show top to bottom. It's really cool. I'm not even explaining it enough to do it justice, but essentially they jump into this world of cards and card games, and they're simultaneously interacting with the world where these cards are from, and almost fighting for their factions and sides. It's so cool. And while I expect none of you guys to understand where I'm coming from on this, and maybe you guys I know you guys weren't exposed to this as much as I was, this show to me is an undeniable A tier. I think the only thing holding back this show in terms of its pure ability to be an S tier is just the fact that it never got fleshed out. Okay, it never got fleshed out. It got killed off somewhere around season 2 or 3, and it was simply because of pure disinterest in the community or the viewership perspective, and that killed me as a kid because I loved this show. Loved it. All right. Yu-Gi-Oh, bro. Yu-Gi-Oh. Boys, answer the question for me. Where are we putting Yu-Gi-Oh here? I don't think it's going to take me very long to see where we're putting this. Kelly with a C? Kelly. I think the only thing here that starts with a C is the crack that you're smoking. Putting Yu-Gi-Oh in a C tier? S/A? Leo, I think that you're so right, bro. I think you're so right. I think we are putting Yu-Gi-Oh in the S tier. This show was phenomenal. And it was so action-packed, and like the fucking card fights and everything in this game were so intense. I really, really loved Yu-Gi-Oh back in the day, man. I got all the cards. I would like battle. Dude, my parents did so well with getting me Yu-Gi-Oh cards back in the day. It was like the most fulfilling thing for me as a kid. That along with Pokemon cards, I truly, Yu-Gi-Oh was so far above and beyond so many other shows. You know what I'm saying? We're coming down to the wire. Last two shows, we got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Pokemon, dude. Let's start with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This show, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this might have actually been a Toonami show, right? I loved Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This show was peak. The art was great. The story was good. I was obsessed with all four turtles in Master Splinter. And even, God, who was the bad guy, man? Shredder, right? Teenage Mutant, I wish that I could go and find this show and just like rewatch it because it was so good. And they did like, the story was so cool and everything like that. However, the only problem I had with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was that they barely ever played it whenever I found myself watching TV, dude. Nah, still an S easily. Okay. All right. We're throwing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the S tier. All right. Rack it up. I'm fine with that. If you guys are fine with that, I'm fine with that because I wanted to put that in S tier so bad. Like I said, man, I just feel like I didn't get exposed to it so much comparatively to like the Clone Wars, Yu-Gi-Oh, Teen Titans, Ben 10, Codename Kids Next Door. All right. I just didn't feel like it ever really made its way across my TV screen enough. But every single time I watched it, it was like the best thing ever. So I'm gonna leave that there and I'm not gonna feel discontent with it. Okay. All right, boys. Pokemon is something that I'm sure so much of us can get behind. I collected all the cards as a kid. Emerald was one of the first video games I ever got as a kid. My grandfather got it for me. Rest in peace to Poppy. All right. Fucking one of the best gifts I've ever gotten in my entire life. This show was great, but was it really amazing in the same way Teen Titans was? Was it amazing as much as Yu-Gi-Oh? Was it as amazing as Ben 10 or Codename Kids Next Door? I feel like all these shows had episodes where every time you'd go in and watch it, there was always something distinct and exciting going on, right? I think that these shows always like just constantly hit episode to episode. They didn't let you down, right? Pokemon, I remember episodes where their big thing would just be, you know, someone being lost in a cave and then they go into the cave and, you know, there's a Pokemon that's like, you know, protecting that or like, you know, hurting that person. I don't know. It was always like the most like low stakes episodes where like it was cool seeing the Pokemon. It was cool seeing like everything you loved about the franchise, but the actual like day-to-day episodes within the show, they weren't all that exciting. You would really only appreciate when they got to like gym leaders or when they stumbled upon like, you know, Team Rocket or even like the more higher stakes like evil villains and teams within the franchise. It was very hit or miss. Like I would say Pokemon was a flip of a coin as to whether or not you were going to get an absolute banger of an episode or if it was going to be just kind of them walking down a path and stumbling upon a bunch of things that you don't really care about too much, right? But because of my respect for Pokemon as a whole, I think I'd still put it in A tier. Pokemon itself was solid. And like I said, there were so many episodes where it was awesome and amazing, but there were so many episodes that were just filler episodes that I really cannot put it in that S tier. You know what I'm saying? Ladies and gentlemen, that is our tier list. I think that this is a good tier list. You know what I mean? It's not very often that you want to see so many S tiers, right? Usually S is like the best of the best, right? But for me, Cartoon Network was just so legendary that I feel like all these deserve to be up here in their own right. You know what I'm saying? That's my honest opinion.